What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. We are sponsored by Bet365. We'll have a nice offer for you. It's a really good offer. I do really like Bet365. They're one of my favorite books that I use. We'll have an offer with them later. As you come in, smash that like button, give us a subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. What is going on? Joining me as always, some Cliffy. How you doing on this eloquent Thursday afternoon?
Doing
Thursday?
good. Yeah, it is Thursday. A couple days ago, we were celebrating the start of spring, and today we have a snowstorm here. So
it's cold and rainy here.
Yeah, so there we go. No, doing well. I mean, it's John Wick 4 day, man. One of the best days of the year. John Wick 4 comes out tonight. Probably gonna go see that at some point this weekend. No, doing good. Pretty good game last night. I only watched the Pittsburgh Colorado game. No, I wasn't staying up to watch Arizona until 2:00 in the morning. Even though, like, you're talking about this in the Discord earlier, Arizona's not a doormat anymore. Like, at the very least, like, their top six is good, like, legitimately good. And they have Valimaki and some good goaltending. So maybe I shouldn't pick up on Arizona too much, but I had stuff to do this morning. I had to get up early. Well, not as early as you, but I had to get up early. But what a game between Pittsburgh and Colorado. I mean, Pittsburgh looked great. Like, I know Colorado still has a bunch of injuries, right? No Landeskog, no Lehkonen, no Rodriguez. That's basically their second line. So, take it with a grain of salt. But I thought Pittsburgh looked pretty good last night. Imagine what that team could actually look like if their general manager tried to make them better at the trade deadline instead of worse.
Yeah. I don't want to harp on that because I'll get riled up and we have a pretty big slate. But as much as I hate Sidney Crosby, like he's an elite player. Like, he is one of the best backhands in the NHL, if not the best. Like, that backhand goal was just nasty.
Well, what was that tweet shared in our Discord? It was 68 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like, you'll find like midget AAA hockey players, like high-level teenage hockey players, shoot that hard with a slap shot. And Crosby's doing that with a backhand. I know he's in the NHL, but that's absolutely absurd.
It wasn't even in close either.
No, he sniped it from like the tops of the circles.
That goal was nasty. And so was Connor McDavid's first goal. Like, he purposely shot it off the back of Connor Ingram's helmet behind the net. That was just disgusting. Some really good goals last night.
That's how you score 60 goals in a season, right? With 10 games left or whatever it is.
Yeah, Tortorella probably punching a hole in the wall when he saw that goal, but it's not hockey. You know what I mean? So, but, we got an 11-game slate tonight. Not as big as the 13-game slate the other night. I didn't play much last night. I made some really idiotic bets last night. I should, whatever. I made some bad bets. It happens. We lose. You know what I mean?
I made some bad bets, but let's make some good ones today. Let's do that.
I posted a screenshot of my winnings the other night, and I get in the comments, well, how can you never post when you lose? You get tired of me posting if I lost. It's a lot of posts. Yeah. I'm very open about it. Single entry player like myself, those wins, 1 or 2 or 3 a season, make your season. So why not post?
Yeah, it's something we talked about at the start of the year. I mean, if you're playing 150 mass multi-entry, it might be a little bit different. If you're playing single entry or something, or single entry or 3-max or something like that, 2, maybe 3 nights a year are going to make or break your entire season. And if you're playing every night, 2 or 3 times a year means if 2 times a year are your big nights, that means 99 out of 100, basically 99 out of 100 slates are going to end up in some varying levels of disappointment. And you just have to kind of get used to that. And I mean, it's really hard when the losses pile up for a month or 2, but you just got to kind of stick with it and hope that it works out in the end.
I was going to say, my first marriage got me used to constant disappointment, but maybe it's NHL DFS. But we should get into the slate.
Yeah, let's start talking about the games tonight, please.
Before I completely go off the rails, I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit wired. Before we do, our brand new Odd Shopper betting show is live every weekday from 4 to 5 p.m. If you're into betting, join Laffy, Ben, Greg, Eric, A10, and the regular guys as they break down the night's best bets using the premium odds tools and data. They're on at 4 p.m. tonight, and it's with Laffy and Ben. So make sure to check that out. I'm sure they'll have some NCAA Sweet 16 bets for you, but make sure to check that out. Let's get into this slate. I'm actually glad the Minnesota Wild and Philadelphia Flyers are not on the slate. That would have been another game where I just wanted to bang my head against the wall. But let's start with the Canadiens then. The Montreal Canadiens with a 2.3 total heading into Boston. The Bruins have a 4.2 total. That is large. Let's see. The top line is now Suzuki, Raphael Harvey-Pinard, and Mike Hoffman. The second line is Kirby Dach centering Johnny Drouin and Dennis Gurianov. Brendan Gallagher back on the third line. That's just something to note for the next slate. This is a brutal matchup for them. I guess like that second line might actually be okay tonight. Like the Krejci, Pasternak, Zacha line isn't anything to write home about defensively, but on an 11-game slate, you really want to play Montreal on the road going to Boston? I don't think so. This is a Boston slate. Again, this is a Boston one for me. If you want to, add in Pasternak, it's always the question in a good power play spot for the Bruins. How do we get Pasternak into that top line stack? Maybe you just add him in. Maybe you take off DeBrusk. Maybe you leave off Marchand. But I like Boston here, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on Montreal. I mean, it is nice that the whole top line is perfectly correlated on the power play, but it's also just about the worst matchup in hockey to be perfectly correlated in the power play and I was Raphael Harvey-Pinard has 9 shots in his last 8 games. That's something that we've talked about is him and Suzuki have kind of been able to generate some quality, but the quantity has been so infrequent, that the quality doesn't really matter because they're just not generating enough. So I agree with you. If anything, it'd be Montreal too. Like at the least, Drouin and Dach have nearly 100 minutes together this season. At the least, they're above league average by expected goals for per 60 minutes. Now, the defensive numbers are horrible, but at least they're generating something offensively. So, yeah, like if you want to go with like a one-off Gurianov or something like that, I think that's perfectly fine, but I'm not stacking anything for Montreal. Question is what to do on the Boston side because there's not a lot of ownership right now on them. 6% on the top line, 4.5% on the second line, both coming in with positive leverage per the top stacks tool. Now, it is a problem. The ice time thing is a real issue, but it's only the issue in the sense that we've talked about it, that Boston won't play their players if they have a handy lead. Like if they're up 3-0 after the first period, Bergeron might not even play 15 minutes tonight. But if it's like 2-1 Montreal halfway through the second, Bergeron or Marchand are probably going to play 18, 19. Marchand might reach 20 minutes. That's just kind of the way things go. So it's kind of it's kind of that double-sided problem of they might not get a lot of ice time, but if they're not getting much ice time, it's because the team's probably scored a bunch of goals. And where Montreal's penalty kill is still so bad, I think this might be a good spot to really go with a power play stack. I think you can do triple wing. I think you can leave Bergeron off the stack if you want and go Marchand, DeBrusk, Pasternak. You might not find a double center stack you like elsewhere, so that's a whole other can of worms, but I don't mind that. Again, if you want to take DeBrusk off and put Pasternak on, I think you can do that as well. DeBrusk does have 6 points his last 3 games, so that feels kind of dangerous. But with Montreal, above average by time shorthanded per game, the Boston power play's generally been good, even if they've been rotating the defensemen in and out. The problem lately has been shooting percentage. They're only shooting 11% on the power play this month, which is kind of low, pretty low for them, actually. They're usually at least in the mid-teens. And Montreal's penalty kill is still very bad. So, I really, really do like Boston one. I get the hesitation for ice time concerns, considering the price, and it's a big slate. So, if you don't want to play them because of that, I think that's fine. But they're near the top of my list for priority here tonight, just because they're going up against that Suzuki line, and Suzuki and Harvey-Pinard just do not have good defensive numbers together. That's just the way it is. So I really do like Boston one here.
Yeah, and adding Mike Hoffman to that line certainly not going to help defensively.
No.
He is an abyss defensively. We'll just leave it at that. New York Rangers, man, their total's been going down during the day. They 2.6 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3 total. Igor Shesterkin confirmed. Freddie Anderson probable. Now, this is a home and home. They played on Tuesday in Madison Square Garden. Carolina came back and won 3-2 there. Now it's at home in Carolina. They kind of – so, like, I wasn't thrilled about playing Rangers at home against Carolina. Now they're on the road going into Carolina. I have less interest in them there. So, honestly, I'm probably out on the Rangers. If you want to one-off a guy here and there, I think that's fine. I'm more interested on the Carolina side here with them dictating matchups, and it's probably going to be Aho, Netchus, and Jarvis. Their ownership, not super high. I mean, they only have a 3 total, and it is going against Igor, who has looked better of late. It's just, price-driven. They're pretty cheap here. We've always talked about Jarvis with Aho. Adding Netchus to the line says that Svechnikov is, maybe Svechnikov is a better offensive player, but by how much, it's hard to quantify. So Carolina 1 for me probably is the only thing I'm interested in this game.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention on the Carolina side is line matching here. It's something we talk about a lot with Carolina because they typically have that Jordan Staal line as a shutdown line going up against the opposing top lines, and it's just a brutal matchup. But I was looking at some recent home games for Carolina. They're switching up the matching basically every game. Like, there have been recent games where Aho, even after Svechnikov got hurt, where Aho has gone out against top competition. There have been games where Kotkaniemi's gone out against top competition. There's been games where Jordan Stahl's gone out against top competition. So I don't really know how the line matching is going to work out here. To be frank, I don't think it matters all that much. Like, all the Carolina lines are typically pretty good defensively because their blue line is so good. So I'm not worried about line matching per se. I am worried about this matchup. Carolina's penalty kill is generally elite, has been pretty much all season, was all last season. And the Rangers' power play has been one of the ways they've been kind of getting there in DFS over the last few weeks. So I'm with you. I'm out on the Rangers. Carolina, what to do with them is a little bit more interesting. Like, I know people might look at Jordan Martinook on the second line and just kind of, brush him off or whatever.
Martinook.
He's a good player. Like, he's a legitimately good player. His problem over the last few years, I mean, one, it's Carolina likes him in a checking role, so he's usually playing with Jordan Staal, and the other's been health. It's him, just staying on the ice. When he's healthy and on the ice, he's very good. And I don't mean like just good defensively. I mean, he can create shots. He's not a bad playmaker. Like, obviously a guy like Necas or Svechnikov on that second line would be a lot better, but Martinook's not a pushover. So, like, if you're looking for one of those filler type stacks, I don't mind Carolina 2 here because they are really cheap tonight on DraftKings. And, Kotkaniemi and Teravainen have typically just dominated the play when they have played together. I was looking at their numbers without Svechnikov or Necas on their line. So anybody but the elite wingers from Carolina, they're controlling nearly 66% of the expected goal share, even without an elite winger on their line. They are running over the competition. So I don't mind that Carolina 2 line as a filler type if you need a really cheap stack because you have something really expensive elsewhere. Maybe, we'll get to like Tampa or Florida or whatever. Maybe you're paying up big time there. So I don't mind it in that sense. But if I was to pick a stack that I like out of this game the best, I agree with you. It's Carolina 1. Even without Svechnikov there, Aho and Jarvis, 3.6 expected goals for per 60 minutes this year at 5-5, 3.4 actual goals for. Like, they're scoring 3.4 actual goals per 60 minutes, which is nearly 40% above the league average. And their shooting percentage is well below league average. That's just how much they're generating, even without Svechnikov on that line. So I'm with you. I really do like Carolina 1 the best in this game, but I wouldn't overlook Carolina 2 as a filler type if you really need a super cheap stack.
Yeah, they're actually, I didn't realize the price. They're under 10K. They're really cheap. Or they're exactly 10K.
Yeah, 10K flat, and ownership coming in is between 1% and 2%. It's not that much.
Yeah, for sure. St. Louis Blues with a 3.1 total. Heading into Detroit, the Red Wings have a 3.3 total. Joel Hofer, Magnus Hellberg confirmed. Blues going with Jake Neighbors, Rob Thomas, Jordan Kyrou is the top line. Sammy Blais, Pavel Buchnevich, Kasperi Kapanen, and then Saad, Shen, and Vrana as the third line. I kind of get why they're putting Jake Neighbors up with Thomas and Kyrou. They want to see what they have with him. I don't understand why Sammy Blais is on the second line with Buchnevich and Kapanen over Vrana. That being said, I actually don't mind Vrana with Shen and Saad. Minutes are a bit wonky, but they're going to get depth of Detroit, which is just absolute disaster at this point. So I do have some interest in the Blues here. I see the ownership on Detroit 1 in the 3.3 total around 4 or 5%. And it's fine, but it's just like Pius Suter sucks. Raymond has had a bad offensive season. His offensive impacts are just absolute disaster. And I see the double-digit ownership on the second line. Andrew Kopp is having a god-awful season. If you want to do like one-off Perron, I think that's fine. But like, I don't have much interest in the Wings tonight.
Yeah, I want to start on the Detroit side, and it's the line matching I want to mention first, because of late, Detroit has been using Andrew Kopp quite a bit in a shutdown role. Now, tonight, I don't know what you would say St. Louis's top line is. I would assume most people would think it's Kyrou, Thomas, even with Jake Neighbors there, right?
Probably.
So I think Kopp is going to be going into that matchup. And we'll have to see what Detroit 2 looks like, because Kubalik was there last game. Adam Ernie was there at Morningscape, but then they said Ernie isn't playing tonight. So I assume Kubalik's going back to the second line, but I guess we'll find out at warm-up. But that Kopp line, Kubalik, Perron, Kopp, 120 minutes together this year, 3 expected goals against per 60 minutes, only 2.14. They're getting run over, as Andrew Kopp has been all season long. And like, I don't think St. Louis 1 is going to be a very good line. Thomas, Kyrou, Neighbors, I really don't. It wouldn't surprise me to see Jake Neighbors on a different line by the second period. I get that they want to see what they have in him. I just don't think he's that good of a player. They're in a different spot right now. But I don't think it's a bad matchup at all for that line. And Thomas and Kyrou have generally been able to generate goals, even though they're not generating a lot of quantity, and it's just how talented they are, right? Like, they've been playing together for a few years now. And there's no ownership coming in on that St. Louis top line, which I get, because Neighbors is not on any power play unit. Thomas is on, quote, the top unit, and then Kyrou is on the second unit. So there's absolutely no power play correlation. I haven't been playing the St. Louis Blues with power play correlation in mind all season long. I don't know why you would. Their power play sucks, man. So like, that doesn't bother me at all. So you're telling me I can get Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas with positive leverage going against Magnus Hellberg, because Husso's hurt, in the Andrew Kopp matchup? Yeah, I don't care about power play correlation here. It's Kyrou, Thomas, and Neighbors I like best in this game by quite a bit. On the Detroit side, I don't mind the top line for Detroit, which feels weird to say because usually I'm pretty against Larkin and Raymond. But they're going to be going out against that second line for St. Louis, and I can't imagine Kapanen and Sammy Blais are going to be able to shut down anybody. So, especially with Larkin and Raymond on the top power play unit, if you just want to use those two and keep Suter off, I think that's fine. But I think Detroit 1 is certainly playable here, getting second and third line matchups, but it is St. Louis 1 I like best.
But that also is why I like the St. Louis third line. Now their minutes are kind of bad, but like Shen's a shooter, Vrana's a shooter and a good playmaker. They're going to get like Zadina, Veleno, Luff, or like the Chiasson line. So like, I don't mind taking a flyer there either. But yeah, like in this matchup, you want to go with their best players, and that's Thomas and Kyrou. Yeah. I mean, like, Jake Neighbors is min price if you want to leave him off, whatever. You want to add in a power play guy to match one of the units, whatever. But like Krug might be out, so Nicoletti could be running a unit. So you might as well just like just don't worry about it. Like, just play the line that you like. And the top line has their best players. Shen and Kyrou could be interesting for DFS because just of depth matchups and their offensive ability. So,
and I mean, here's another thing is I know people might want to play that Vrana Shen sad line, and I get it, and I don't have a problem with playing them. And they might want to do it because Shen and Vrana are on the second power play unit together, so there's some power play correlation there. But that's the Torrey Krug unit, and Torrey Krug's not playing tonight, and that means Nick Leddy's probably running that power play. Yeah. No thanks. Yeah. Kyrou Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I think our esteemed Blues fan, Matt Niehaus, can run the second unit better than Nick Leddy could at this point. So, yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you. Again, I don't have issue with Shen and Kyrou just from the pure, it's a good 5-on-5 matchup. But I wouldn't use them with the power play in mind because they suck already. And with Leddy, they're going to suck even more. So, Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3.3 total heading into Florida. The Panthers have a 3.6 total. Matt Murray's probable. Sergei Bobrovsky is confirmed. Leafs had an optional this morning. So, I don't know. Matthews could be playing with Kerfoot again. He could be playing with Sam Lafferty and Noel Acai-Berry. We just don't even know. I like the Panthers here regardless. Like, with the Leafs banged up, they're just not great defensively. That second line, regardless of who's the center, Sam Bennett or Eetu Luostarinen, who will be there tonight, they're just humming offensively. They're coming in with not a lot of ownership here. I get if you want to go to that Barkov, Reinhart, Lundell line, they're cheap or they're cheaper. They're 16.5, but they're getting heavy ownership, and they're really just not that good. So I'd rather just go to one of the best lines in the NHL, Tkachuk, Luostarinen, and Verhaeghe. It doesn't matter if they get the Tavares line, they get the Lafferty line, they get the Matthews line. There isn't a line combination that the Leafs could put together right now outside of maybe like Matthews, Marner, Yarncroc, where I'd worry like, you know what, maybe that's going to be a really good defensive line, but I don't see them doing that, so I'm interested in the Tkachuk line.
Yeah, we don't, like you said, we don't know what the Toronto lines are going to be, and that's the first problem. Now, I was looking at that game log, and they basically kept Matthews and Yarncroc together and moved Kerfoot off, and they kept Tavares and Bunting together and moved Marner off. And it feels – they always talk about playing with pairs of players, and it feels weird that the pairs right now are Matthews and Yarncroc and Tavares and Bunting, and then like Nylander and Marner are just kind of floating around the team. But that's how bad things are going for Toronto right now, is that they don't have – places for Nylander and Marner to play game in and game out. Florida 1 is going to take the top line matchups. Barkov almost always takes top line matchups. So that means he's going to be going out against the Matthews line. I think that's going to be Toronto's best defensive line. Like, I agree with you that I'm not super concerned about matchups. I think if you were to ask me what Toronto's best defensive line is going to be, it would be Matthews, Yarncroc, X, whether it's Kerfoot or Nylander, Marner. I mean, Sam Lafferty, maybe Eric Gustafsson up there. I mean, the hell knows. Ilya Samsonov, top line right wing.
That would be great.
Can it be any worse than David Kampf?
No.
So Matthews and Yarncroc have fine defensive numbers together. Tavares and Bunting have terrible defensive numbers together, which kind of makes sense. Tavares isn't a good defensive player at this stage of his career. The reason why they typically have good defensive numbers is he's been playing a lot with Marner and Yarncroc. Like, those are two pretty good defensive wingers to have. We'll have to see what they look like at warmups, but if Marner's not on his line and it's JT and Bunting, and they've got terrible defensive numbers, and they're going out against that Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, Luostarinen line, I think I'm with you. I like Florida 2 again here tonight, like just saddling right back up. The one thing that concerns me here is something we talked about in our Discord, was that the power play with Florida has been a lot better with Carter Verhaeghe instead of Aaron Ekblad. I mean, who could have seen that coming, putting a 40-goal scorer on the top power play unit instead of a second defenseman? But, I don't get paid $1 million to coach in the NHL. So they have a much better power play now, but Toronto's got a really good penalty kill, and they don't take a lot of penalties either. So that's the one thing that kind of concerns me. But I agree with you. I think it's a really, really good matchup for Florida too, especially with the way, like, they're not going to see much of the top line. They're going to see a lot of the second line. And if they don't see much, whatever they don't see the second line, it's going to be the bottom six. And you and I have been talking about how just like not even NHL caliber that Toronto bottom six has been basically this entire month since the trade deadline. So I'm with you. I really like Florida too here. Toronto's interesting because Florida's not a good defensive team, right? Like we can extol the virtues of how good they are offensively, and that's great for us in DFS. But outside that Barkov, Lundell, Reinhart line, there is not a good defensive line on this team. And I'm looking at Toronto, and yeah, we have to wait to see what line combinations look like. But right now, we have Marner on the top line, and that line's coming in at 6%. And so I see a Matthews-Marner line coming in at 6% in a pretty good matchup because Florida does take a lot of penalties. I think I kind of like Toronto one here. As long as Matthews gets one of Marner or Nylander, as long as he's not saddled with a couple boat anchors, I kind of like the Toronto top line here tonight. But I'm with you. I think overall I like Florida 2 best.
Yeah, and there was no morning skate. So if at warm-ups you see Matthews, Marner, Yarncroc, or Matthews, Marner, Nylander even, people are going to be scrambling. That's going to be a low-owned line. I agree with you. If they're together, at least one of them's there. Even if it's Matthews, Yarncroc, Nylander, Matthews, Yarncroc, Marner, I have interest there. Panthers are just awful defensively. They take a ton of penalties. So, yeah, I think this is a good spot to go to the Leafs top line. The best way to make money from the sports books is to take advantage of great promo offers when they become available. We got one for you guys. Click the link below to take advantage. Bet365 upped their offer big time. This is the best offer we've ever had. If you bet $1, uno, I don't know, that's the only other language I know is Spanish. So one or uno, get $365 in bonus bets at 365. Obviously, deposit is required. Bonus bets winnings are added to a bonus bet balance. Bonus bet wager excluded from returns. Obviously, there's terms and conditions. It's, the general terms and conditions there. You'll get 365 in bonus bets. It's available in New Jersey, Colorado, Ohio, and Virginia. Bet365 is slowly getting into more states around the country. I know up by Cliffy Land in the middle of the Atlantic, Bet365 is available. I actually really like Bet365, especially for hockey goal bets. They're always mispriced compared to the other books. So if you're into hockey betting, you're in one of New Jersey, Colorado, Ohio, Virginia, and you've never signed up, this is a great deal. You've 365x your money. There's tons of sports. If you're a big curling guy, that you can bet curling on there. So yeah, click the link in the description below. Take advantage of that. It's not very often you can get $365 in bets for as little as $1. So take advantage of that. Let's move on to the next one here. Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.5 total heading into Ottawa. The Senators have a 3.2 total. Andre Vasilevsky probable. Mads Sogard is confirmed. I don't know, man. Like, again, this is a really good spot for the Lightning. And again, like, they're just kind of doing stuff on the ice. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, they should have like destroyed the Canadiens 2 games in a row. They just kind of like went through it. You know what I mean? But there's not a lot of ownership on this top line. And the Sens are not good defensively at all. So I think going back to the Lightning here makes some sense. I also like the Sens here because the Tampa Bay penalty kill has been pretty bad recently. And the Senators, like the Canucks, are very power play oriented where they have to score on the power play to score. So I think there's some merit to going to the Sens here.
Yeah, there is. And
Ryan Elliott got confirmed, I think.
Yeah. I do think there is a lot to like on both sides, so I'm going to take a little bit of time here. The top line for Ottawa with Giroux there has been really good lately. Like what we have been saying, like basically since Christmas, right up until the trade deadline a few weeks ago, was that it was all shooting percentage related. All they needed to do was just not shoot 6 or 7% at 5-on-5, and they would start filling the net. And guess what? They've started filling the net. In the month of March, 4.6 goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5 for that top line. Now, they haven't played a lot together because Batherson was up there for a couple games. So they only have about 80 minutes, but they're also just generating 4.2 expected goals. So the shot and expected goals generation has stayed there, and now the goals are starting to finally come. And Tim Stützle has 32 shots in his last 10 games. He's playing 23 minutes a night, over 3 shots per game. Claude Giroux is not on the top power play unit and is still averaging 3 shots a game over his last 10 games. I didn't bother checking Brady Tkachuk's, but I'm sure he's at like 9 shots a game over his last 10 games or something. You know what I mean? Yeah, so they're generating a lot. The Tampa Bay Tampa Bay's another team. We don't know what the line combinations are going to be. It was an optional skate today, and they nuked their lines last game, as they have been doing quite a bit. I'm assuming they go back to what they started with, which means Brandon Hagel on the top line with Point and Kucherov. But, that's another one we'll see a warm-up. Their defensive numbers were been below average of late. And I don't think that should be shocking if you've been watching the Tampa Bay Lightning over the last couple of weeks. But I don't think it makes that bad of a matchup for that Ottawa top line. Tampa Bay's penalty kill is not like super elite. Like this isn't it's not a Carolina or a Boston penalty kill or anything like that. So it's not something to really be feared. Their time shorthanded is basically league average. I don't think it's that bad of a matchup for Ottawa 1. And, no ownership here, 3.5%. Like they're up. I don't want to say they're on par with Boston 1 for me. They're pretty close though. And I am as the day's gone on, I've been talking to myself more and more in Ottawa. I would go with their top line. Their second line, I just don't like that line combination. I still think Alex DeBrincat really needs just a genuinely good playmaker, and there's not one. The Pinto's not that, and Batherson's not that. So Ottawa 1 for me. On the Tampa side, it's hard to say what to play when you don't know what the lines are going to be. I don't mind if they go back to Stamkos, Cirelli, Killorn. I certainly don't mind going back to that. Or even if it's like Stamkos, Paul, Killorn or something like that. Stamkos and Paul have generally been generating a lot of offense together of late, if they are together. Stamkos and Killorn on the top power play unit. That Ottawa second line's been pretty bad defensively. Like that, I think that's the second and third lines. I think is where a lot of the bad defense has been coming from for Ottawa of late. So I'm in more on Tampa 2 tonight, assuming Stamkos and Killorn are together. If they're not, I would probably default back to Tampa 1. But at that point, I probably just would be playing Tampa.
Yeah, and man, I know a few years ago, Alexis Lafreniere was the consensus number 1, and 100 out of 100 would have picked Lafreniere 1. But Timmy Stützle is the class of that draft.
He's like him and Jake Sanderson both. Like Jake Sanderson was a pick that got pretty widely panned at the time, and I don't know, man. Jake Sanderson might be a top pair defenseman right now, not in 2 or 3 years, like today. Give him some time. Like Buffalo, they just need some time.
Yeah, man. The Sens front office got slagged for Brady Tkachuk too. Like, just relax, man. They apparently know what they're doing in the draft. Free agency, another story, but drafting, pretty good. Chicago Blackhawks with a 2.5 total heading into Washington. The Capitals have a 3.9 total. Anton Khudobin, baby, and Darcy Kemper are confirmed. God, I hate this game. Alex Ovechkin under 10% ownership projected right now. I think you can one off him. I think you can add him in with Strome. I just don't want a full stack anything on either side. I hate this game. What do you got?
it's giving some serious Tuesday Columbus Washington vibes.
Yeah.
And that game ended up with 13 goals.
Yeah.
So we talked the other day about the bad defensive numbers for Ovechkin and Tom Wilson, and they certainly do. But with Dowd back healthy now and Sheary back healthy now and Protas in the lineup ostensibly, They're going to be used as a shutdown line, which is kind of funny because I have no idea what shutdown line they're going to be going at or what line they're going to be going at against.
Could be any one of the four.
Yeah, like I assume Reichel and Athanasiou, but I guess Tyler Johnson and Taylor Radish and Jason Dickinson are, quote, veterans of sorts, even if Radish has only been there a couple seasons in the NHL, sorry. Anyways, all that is to say, I'm pretty sure that Strome and Wilson and Ovechkin are going to be getting second and third line matchups from Chicago here. And assuming that that means going out against like Reichel or Kurashev or whatever, and then going out against a third line, those are great matchups. Like the Radish Dickinson line actually hasn't been bad defensively, like pretty close to league average. It's the other lines that have been pretty bad defensively, and I think that makes a pretty good matchup for Washington 1 here. Ovechkin and Strome are both on the top power play unit. Chicago's penalty kill hasn't been terrible. Washington is getting John Carlson back. We have to remember the power play wasn't doing well when Carlson got hurt. I mean, glad to see John Carlson's alive, by the way, considering the injury that he suffered.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Fractured skull and an artery bleed in his brain. Not great. Good to see him back, absolutely. But the power play wasn't doing well in the first half of the season before he got hurt, and it had been going pretty well once Rasmus Sandin got there. So I'm kind of interested how that works out, especially where Chicago doesn't take a lot of penalties. Like I said, the penalty kill hasn't been atrocious or anything like that. Certainly not like, Montreal or Anaheim quality. So I think Washington 1 is perfectly acceptable here. I think the Oshie Milano Backstrom line makes a reasonable filler. Like, I know they're coming in a little bit over-owned, but you get Backstrom and Oshie on the top power play unit. Milano and Oshie have been pretty good at generating offense together this year, at least above average. They're going to get third and fourth line matchups against this Blackhawks roster. So I don't mind them as a filler, but I really do like the matchup for Washington 1 here. I think I'm with you. At the very least, Alex Ovechkin requires strong consideration as a one-off.
Yeah. You don't really want to have this is Captain Obvious take, but you really don't want to have major hip injuries in the NHL. Tyler Seguin, Nick Backstrom, shells of their former self, but I think this is a fine spot for Backstrom. But yeah, Ovechkin easily my favorite. Like Anton Khudobin, I honestly didn't even know he was still in the NHL.
He wasn't. He was in the AHL.
Well, yeah. No, I didn't even know he was an option.
No, he was in the AHL with Dallas. Scott Wedgwood won the backup role, and they sent Khudobin to the AHL. He's been there all season, and he got I don't even know what trade. Oh, it was Max Domi trade. He got sent the Max Domi trade. So here he is. Like I don't know. He's not a terrible goalie. I guess we're gonna find out.
Questions will be answered.
Yeah.
Min price goalie again. Seattle Kraken with a 3.4 total heading into Nashville. The Predators have a 3 total. Joey Decord price hasn't moved for some reason. Is confirmed. UC Saros only $800 more at home. Probable. Oh man, the other night was Nashville night, and you just hate to see it because if it's really Nashville night, it's not going to be Josh's night. So I don't know. They're not coming in with much ownership here, but like I feel like we got their ceiling game the other night against the Sabres. Like the Seattle Kraken are a decent team. I don't know. Like not too much interest in the Predators here. If anything, it would be that top line, assuming they're together, or like one-offing Luke Evangelista with Tommy Novak, but like they're kind of expensive for their role. I'm more on the Seattle side here. The problem is it's like two lines are getting ownership here. Like Beniers, McCann, Eberle getting around 9% just feels bad. Like they just don't create enough for me, which leads me to go to the Gore, Tolvin, and Bjorkstrand line. But like they haven't been great. But like this Nashville team's so bad. What are you doing here?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's funny you mentioned the ceiling game. So I was looking at like Matt Duchene's last 10 to see his game log. He has 4 points in his last 10 games and 3 points came in that one game. So like, yeah, I think they reached their ceiling in that one. It's one of those games where all the lines are probably going to come in over-owned, or all the relevant lines anyway, but it's not like you can just ignore it, right? I mean, I guess you can. I mean, you can do anything you want, I suppose. But there is a 3.5 total here. Both teams have an implied total of at least 3. So, like, I don't want to just outright ignore it. So you got to go fishing through the lines to see what's working and what's not. I know that Duchesne line had an amazing game last game. Duchesne and Glass, even though Evangelista was on a different line and he had 4 points. They're just not generating anything. 2.4 expected goals for per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. 2.7 actual goals for, shooting nearly 10%. Like, they're way above the league average by shooting percentage and just above average by goal scoring. It's because they're not generating anything. And yeah, Seattle's had some tough times generating on their own lately, but the defense has been good. The problem has been the goaltending, which it has typically been this season. So, you know, it's not a great matchup for them. They're coming in over-owned. I think I'm out on the Duchesne line. The Novak line is interesting. They're starting to get a little expensive. It's nothing crazy. 12,300 as a line on DraftKings. I'm talking about Novak, Evangelista, and Sherwood. You get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit in Novak and Evangelista. Seattle's penalty kill has been better, but typically not that great this year. And that line for Nashville has been generating a ton. 3.5 expected goals for per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 this season for that Novak, Evangelista, Sherwood line. We're not at a big sample yet. We're at about 70 minutes. But they are generating a lot. And Tommy Novak, I was looking today, his scoring chance contributions, like his individual scoring chances plus assists on a teammate scoring chance, really good. And like really good for Nashville and just pretty good overall. So I think there's Evangelista is a guy that is a highly touted prospect. So it is a small sample. It's only 70 minutes, but I think we have to at least, consider the possibility that this just might be a good offensive line because Novak has played well basically all season. Evangelista does have a good pedigree. They could just be good. So I don't mind that Nashville second line as a filler type. I think you can leave off Sherwood if you want. You can leave him in if you want as well. It depends, your salary and roster needs. But I would focus on the least on a Novak and Evangelista. I don't mind that duo here tonight. On the Seattle side, it's Gord, Tolvin, and Bjorkstrand for me, for the simple fact that Tolvin and Bjorkstrand are on the top power play unit. And that top power play has been one of the few bright spots for Seattle. Seattle special teams this season. They've been really good over the last month. Nashville is above average by time shorthanded per game. The penalty kill's typically been pretty good, but it's all UC Saros. It's not necessarily the penalty kill. So I don't mind that Gord, Tolvin, and Bjorkstrand line. They have been playing reasonably well of late. Like I said, you do get 2 out of 3 guys on the top power play unit, but they are coming in over-owned. And I'm going to be honest, like 6.5% Gord, Tolvin, and Bjorkstrand, or under 2% Novak, Evangelista, Sherwood at home. I'd go with the Nashville guys. So I think I like Nashville more than Seattle here tonight.
Yeah, here's the caveat. The issue I have with Novak, Evangelista, it's their head coach. The head coach, the last 4 games, they've had 2 games above 17 minutes, and they've had 2 games below 15 minutes. For whatever reason, John Hines loves the Colton Sisson, Yakov, Trent, and Cole Smith line. So there is a chance these guys only play 15 minutes tonight. There's also a chance they could play 18 minutes. For 2%, I'm willing to find out, but you just have to be prepared for like 13.48 from Luke Evangelista tonight. It's kind of expensive for that, but like, I don't know. Like, I'm willing to gamble on that ownership and just hope that John Hines plays them 16, 17 minutes.
Right. Like, I'm willing to gamble on Nashville at home when they're 1 to 2% owned, not 20 to 30% owned like they have been over the previous couple weeks.
Yeah. Chalk Nashville. Just
even the
dog.
Yeah, Bacon loves Nashville.
Someone woke up and just not about chalk Nashville, apparently. Let's move on. Yeah, let's move on to the Vegas Golden Knights with a 2.8 total. Heading into Calgary, the Flames have a 3.3 total. Logan Thompson is back and confirmed. That's good news. Jacob Markstrom also confirmed. That's not very good news. He's been atrocious this season. If they had Markstrom from last season, this would be one of the best teams in the NHL. I don't think that's a massive stretch. Logan Thompson, Vegas's best goalie this season. This like the Flames have been giving me a headache all season because like they start to get like good samples on the lines and they start playing well and then they mix up the lines. I have no interest in the Kadri Dubé Richie line. I kind of have interest in Backlund Coleman, but Huberdeau is just completely useless for DFS. I kind of like Lindholm, Toffoli, Mangiapane. Like I guess they're fine, but like they spread out the ice time so evenly that like I can't get behind Calgary. Like if anything, it would be Lindholm, Toffoli, Mangiapane, just because they're fully correlated. They're not wildly expensive. They're under 16K. The thing is, like Vegas doesn't take a lot of penalties. They have a very good penalty kill, so like they're gonna have to get their own 5-on-5, which they can. They have a 3.3 total, but just depending on the matchups, they're going to avoid the Eichel, Marchessault, Barbashev line, which is their worst defensive line. So, like, I don't have much interest in this game.
I do have a little bit of interest in this game from the Calgary perspective.
Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way Vegas has been playing, right? We talked about this in our Discord earlier. Vegas has just legitimately been one of the worst teams in the NHL this month. What is bailing them out is good goaltending at times and good penalty kill at times. Certainly not their 5-on-5 play. If you want to look just over the last 10 games, every single regular player in the Vegas lineup over the last 10 games is below average defensively by expected goals against. Every single one of them. That's how bad the team has been defensively of late. There's not a matchup that I'm really concerned about from the Vegas side here. This isn't a matchup where you focus on the power play either. Vegas is the least penalized team in the NHL. So you don't want to, really pick on their power play. It's Toffoli, Lindholm, Mangiapane that I like here. And I like them a fair bit. The ice time is a concern, but I feel like that's kind of priced into it where they're under 16,000 on DraftKings. The top line for Calgary, or not the top line, just Mangiapane and Toffoli. We talked about this on Tuesday's show. They've been able to generate shot quality this year, where that's really been a struggle for Calgary for a lot of their line combinations. Mangiapane and Toffoli on the ice together this year, 4.0 expected goals generated per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. Sorry. 72, that's on 72 shot attempts generated per 60 minutes. They're just generating a ton of offense. And the way Calgary's running their lines now, they're going to get the second and third line matchups, which I'd like to see them out against Barbashev. But if they get some matchups against that Vegas third line, that Kessel, Stevenson, Cotter line, that Vegas third line's getting like Vader choked every single night. If Calgary's top line is going to see some of them at 5-on-5, I really do have interest in Calgary 1 here tonight. Like they're not a priority for me or anything. But if you're looking for a mid-price stack, that's probably going to be under 5% owned here tonight. I think Calgary 1's it. On the Vegas side, I mean, I'm out on the Eichel line. I don't mess around with the Backlund Coleman matchup. That's just not something I would do personally. So then I think it's Smith, Carlson, and Dorofeyev that I would like the best. Here's the problem is that Markstrom has been playing a lot better lately. Calgary's penalty kill is generally very good. Riley Smith's not really shooting the puck much. 13 shots in his last 10 games. And at 12,100 on DraftKings, they're basically the same price as that Nashville Novak, Evangelista, as both Nashville lines that we just talked about. We're going to talk about a San Jose line a little bit later. That's the same price. Same thing with Dallas. So I think there are just other lines in that price range I like better, which is why I'm not really high on Vegas 2 here. So I think I'm out on Vegas here tonight, and it's Calgary 1 I like the most.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look through some Calgary 1 stuff and some Vegas stuff, but I want to get behind Vegas because Markstrom's just been brutal, but it's not much there. Pittsburgh Penguins with a 3 total heading into Dallas. The Stars have a 3.5 total. Casey DeSmith is probable after Yari went and missed on the empty net like 9 times last night. Sad. Jake Ottinger is confirmed. Is back-to-back on the road for Pittsburgh. Dallas top line, a little bit under double digits here. Pittsburgh has been a train wreck defensively recently. I don't like Casey DeSmith as a goalie. I have a lot of interest in the Dallas top line. I think Wyatt Johnson, Jamie Benn makes for a nice filler. I like the Stars. I'm worried that the ownership does creep up more throughout the day, but this is a very good matchup.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering how line matching is going to work out here because they were on a super long road trip and just came home, and the first team they played was Seattle, and Seattle they have a top line, but they really don't. So they really spread out the matching in that game against Seattle, which, it's a little bit of a concern because you like to know what the line matching is, because the reason for that is the Pittsburgh second line, as it's currently constructed, with Zucker there, with Raquel there, has not been very good defensively. I was looking just since January 1st, 170 minutes together at 5-on-5, 3.4 expected goals against per 60 minutes. Off the top of my head, that's about 36% worse than the league average, and 5 actual goals against per 60 minutes because the Pittsburgh goaltending has just been atrocious. That is a pretty good matchup for whatever line would probably be going into the second line now, into the second line. Sorry. Now I think it's going to be that Johnston-Benn line that is going to get that matchup. So it would seem like I would like the Ben Johnston-Donoff line quite a bit. They are coming in with a fair bit of ownership here, but they are getting minutes. Like, they're basically getting the same minutes the top line are. The only difference is you only have Ben on the top power play unit versus the entire top line on the top power play unit. That's been basically the difference. But that second line's been generating a ton, 3.1 expected goals for per 60 minutes in the month of March. Wyatt Johnston's been playing like 18 minutes a night of late as a rookie on the second line for a playoff team. He has 16 shots in his last 5 games as well. I like the entire Dallas top 6 here, but I think going back to Dallas 2, I think that makes a lot of sense here. If you don't want to play what could be a bad Nashville line, this is one of those lines that's in that 12 to 13K range on DraftKings that I would absolutely play as a filler. So I like Dallas 2. I'm not in on Pittsburgh here tonight. Like, I know they're not coming in with much ownership, and for that reason, like, they are playable. But there are a lot of spots here tonight that really aren't getting a lot of ownership. Florida, that we already talked about. We talked about Toronto earlier, certainly Ottawa. I just think there are other better spots that are coming in similarly low owned that I would rather play. So I think for me, it's the Dallas top 6 mainly. I think I like the filler stack better, but I wouldn't argue with either of the top 2 lines.
Get 1 free month Stokastic Plus Platinum and up to $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks. Click in the link description below to sign up. It will take you to where you need to go. Prize Picks is a prop-based contest. If you are in a state that doesn't have legal sports betting, I like going on Prize Picks. It's not legal in New Jersey, but sports betting is legal. But if you're in one of those states, I think you need to be on Prize Picks. 5-player lineups can net you up to 10x your entry fees. Sometimes Jake puts out a Prize Picks. There's also it's not a Prize Picks chat per se. What's it called? It is Let me find it.
Over on Discord?
Yeah, there's like a who just mentioned it. There's some kind of I think it's called like the chalkboard chat where people like post discords. Check on the Stokastic website. You can get into that Discord for free. A whole bunch of people post about prize picks there, so check that out. And yeah, if you get the 1 free month Stokastic Plus Platinum, you'll get included is the tool that we show from time to time, and you can take advantage of the. I am struggling with this read, but we'll just move on. Winnipeg Jets with a 3.6 total. Heading into Anaheim, the Ducks have a 2.5 total. Connor Hellebuyck is probable. Lucas Dostal is confirmed. Somehow we got Ducks lines this morning. We are blessed. Vetrano is still up with Strome and Zegras. Second line of McTavish, Jones, and Terry. Third line of Jakob Silfverberg, Isak Lundestrom, and Nikita Nesterenko. Jets, I didn't see skate, but I think they're going back to Niederreiter. Scheifele, Ehlers?
No, Ehlers, Scheifele, Wheeler, Connor Dubois, Niederreiter.
Okay, yeah, sorry. This is like a flowchart season. This is what the flowchart was built for. I just like I get if you want to play the Jets tonight. This team has been so up and down recently. If you want to play them, you can play them. Like this is a unbelievably good matchup. I just think there are lines in similar price points that I just like better. It's a 3.6 total. So if you want to play the Jets here, go for it. They have Dostal and net. None of their lines are good defensively. Their penalty kill's terrible. Just for me, in my one lineup, I just think I'm going to look elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of what you want to do with the lines. It's like you can put Connor Dubois and Niederreiter into your lineup. It's perfectly correlated on the power play. Probably come in around 10%, maybe a little bit higher. That's all perfectly fine. But then you're playing a Winnipeg stack going into Anaheim, maybe the best road matchup in the league for Winnipeg, and not playing Mark Scheifele. Like that, you know what I mean? That just kind of feels drawing a little thin. So like I've been drawing a blank about how I would want to stack up Winnipeg here tonight. I think it's certainly focusing on the power play guys because this is a really good power play spot for them. Anaheim, well above average by time shorthanded per game. The penalty kill's awful. We all know all this. I'm wondering how good Winnipeg actually is right now. You know what I mean?
It's a fair question.
This team has not been playing very well for a while. I wonder how much of it might be related to Josh Morrissey and injury. He's been playing fine, don't get me wrong. But he's kind of not really looked like himself of late, which, if you're basically playing on one leg, that really makes sense. You know what I mean? He has the worst expected goals against of any Winnipeg defenseman this month. And when you think of the Winnipeg defensemen, they're playing like Dylan Sandberg and Logan Stanley. And Josh Morrissey's been their worst defensive defenseman this month. I think he's trying to gut out what is going to end up a pretty bad injury. Yeah. So I'm really worried about playing Winnipeg here. And I hate saying this because, maybe he's not as hurt as I think, and I'm overthinking this and overblowing it. But I don't think you can go a whole month being the team's worst defenseman when a month ago people were saying you might win the Norris Trophy. It's just a cataclysmic fall off in 1 month. It has to be injury that he's gutting it through. So that worries me because there's no one else on that blue line that can move the puck. Pionk can do it if it's the right day for him. Other than that, man, there's no one that can move the puck, and that concerns me for Winnipeg. So if I'm stacking Winnipeg, I don't think I'm playing any of the defensemen, and I think I might just actually do 4 power play forwards instead, or at the very least focus on the 4 power play forwards, that the Dubois line plus Scheifele. That's where I am here. On the Anaheim side, I don't know. No, but seriously, the top line with Vetrano there, we talked about this in the Discord earlier. It might be the worst defensive line in hockey.
Anyone was Stroman Vetrano. Like,
Not-
they were
not-
on the Rangers last year. They were awful.
Not just this season either. I mean, like in the salary cap era, one of the worst defensive lines that we've ever seen. So that's kind of the balance here. Is like it's a really, really good matchup for Winnipeg, obviously, but I have a lot of concern that the ownership's going to be higher than what we're projecting because it's bloody Anaheim, and that Morrissey's playing through a really bad injury that is actually just dragging down the entire team. I don't think I'm playing Winnipeg here tonight. If I was going to play Winnipeg, it would be the Connor Dubois Niederreiter line. I am not playing a line with Blake Wheeler, Nikolai Ehlers on it. Ehlers, I talked about this in our Discord. I know, like, we're big Ehlers fans. I'm a huge Ehlers fan. He's not been the same guy this year that he's typically been, and it's not just a shooting percentage issue either. So it's Winnipeg 2 for me, nothing from the Anaheim side, but I think I'm going to end up fading the forwards in this game and probably shutting off the NHL when the game comes on at 11 p.m.
Yeah. But as the co-creators of said flowchart, the flowchart says to fade. So if you are a flowchart believer, believe. And can we stop the Josh Morrissey moniker on Twitter? Like, it makes me want to vomit.
That stopped a few weeks ago.
Good.
Yeah. It's not going to be a thing anymore. Don't worry about that.
Erik Karlsson, clear front runner now. Let's get to that game. San Jose Sharks with a 3 total heading into Vancouver. The Canucks have a 3.7. James Reimer is confirmed. Thatcher Demko is probable. This would have been an easy game to break down. I would have really liked to play Patterson, Beauvillier, Kuzmenko, but a few games ago, they took Kuzmenko off the top power play unit. They benched him in the last game. JT Miller, Brock Besser getting loads of ownership here. I guess you go back to Patterson, Beauvillier, Kuzmenko. They're much lower owned. They've been good since they've been together. You could power play stack. I just don't understand what the Vancouver Canucks are doing. Like, and that's an evergreen question because I never know what they're doing. But, like, you just re-sign Kuzmenko to a bridge deal, then you yeet him off the power play, and then you bench him. Like, he's their best power play. He's such a good net front. I don't want to get, like, too caught up in it. I'm turning, like, all shades of the rainbow right now. But what are you doing here tonight?
Yeah, it's a good question about what to do with Vancouver here because, like, is Kuzmenko, like, legitimately in the doghouse, I think is a real question. Because, like you said, he got benched last game. He got taken off the power play 2 games ago. Got benched last game. It's like, how much longer is he actually just going to stay in the lineup? You know what I mean? Which feels weird to say, considering he's leading the team in power play goals. Like, right? It's not Besser. It's not Besser. It's not Pedersen. It's not Miller. It's Kuzmenko that's leading them in power play goals, taking off the power play. He has 34 goals on the season, and I think he's 1 game away from being a healthy scratch. Like, I'm serious. And that's my problem with playing that Vancouver line here tonight, is that if it was just 1 game of him, getting benched for a period or something like that, I'd say it's no big deal. But the fact that he lost his power play role the games before that, and then he got benched, makes me think this is an ongoing issue between him and Tocchet, and that like, Philip Hronik's back tonight, right? Like, so they're gonna have to scratch a defenseman to bring Hronik back. How long is it going to be before they're going 11-7 and Kuzmenko's in the press box? Which feels insane because that guy's going to finish with 35 goals this year.
Not if he's in the press box the rest of the season.
Right. But that's my concern about stacking that Vancouver line is I'm really worried that he's going to just be his ice time is just going to get nuked and, be on the 4th line by the end of the game and Kravtsov has taken his spot or something like that. Right. Like, I could see Tocchet just saying all Russians look alike or something. You know what I mean? So,
trails.
Yeah. So I mean, I do like Pedersen, Beauvillier, and Kuzmenko tonight in theory, in a nutshell. I like that line. I like this matchup. Decent power play spot. I like the way they've been playing. They haven't been generating as much as they were in their first, 5 or 6 games together, but they're still outplaying the opposition. I would like that line. I have concerns about Kuzmenko, though. I mean, if you're super concerned, I think you can just leave him off the stack at this point, right? Because it's not like he's a huge volume shooter. Like, this isn't a Cole Caulfield that'll put up 4 shots per game or something, right?
He's a good net front and tipping the puck. And
Right.
You can't do that if he's not on the power play, so you might as well leave him off and put him Besser.
Right. I mean, over a third of his goals have come on the power play. So, if his ice time's going to get nuked not on the power play, I think he can leave him off and just turn it into a power play stack. So I guess I like a power play stack here best, like something like Pettersson, Beauvillier, JT Miller, Pettersson, Beauvillier, Besser, something like that, I think is the way I would go with Vancouver. I'm worried about playing Kuzmenko at this point. On the San Jose side, I mean, I none of their lines are really generating anything. Like, the best that they can do is Logan Couture and Kevin LeBanc being league average, which it's something, but it's not enough. If anything, it would be focusing on the power play guys, but I think this is going to be the time to segue into the defenseman. I think the guy I had the most interest in this game is Erik Karlsson on the blue line. I don't have a lot of interest in the Sharks forwards.
You don't want to play min-priced top line Martin Kaut?
I mean, I don't hate it, honestly.
He's going to play like 17 minutes.
Like, Hurdle, Kaut, and Barabanov are going to get a good matchup because that JT Miller, Phil DiGiuseppe line is not good defensively. But Demko is the other problem, right? Demko is not the Demko of now. Looks like the Demko of last year, and not the Demko of the first half of the season, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'm out on the Sharks in my 1 to 3 if they happen. Like I talk about it, you MME guys know how to use optimizers. If they happen to get into your mix organically, I'd leave them. But yeah, let's talk about those guys on the blue line. I know you like Erik Karlsson. It's not hard to like Erik Karlsson. Who else you liking?
Yeah, I do like Erik Karlsson. Not a ton of expensive guys I like. I think John Carlson is perfectly fine if he's a little expensive. I think Brent Burns as well is fine. Like, one thing you and I have said is that the one area Shesterkin has really struggled this year is on the penalty kill, so I don't mind Burns. But I'm going to be honest, if I'm playing a defenseman over 6,000 on DraftKings tonight, it's probably Erik Karlsson or nobody.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. For the mid-price guys, there are 3 that really stand out for me, projections and matchups and all that. Hampus Lindholm for Boston, obviously, Mikhail Sergachev for Tampa Bay, and Gustav Forsling for Florida. Like, if Toronto is still going to have a good penalty kill, but be really bad at 5-on-5, I think that plays perfectly for Forsling here tonight. Other guys in that mid-price range are like Moritz Cedar from Detroit, Adam Larson from Seattle, Justin Falk from St. Louis. Cheap guys. There are a lot of cheap guys I like here tonight. There's a couple 2,500s, Troy Stetcher, Marco Scandella. I don't mind them, even though Stetcher might only play 15 or 16 minutes. Eric Chernak, Zach Whitecloud under 3K. I think I would rather play Chernak, or I'd rather play Whitecloud than Chernak, but they're both there. Jake Sanderson and Pierre-Olivier Joseph. We'll have to see on Jeff Petrie. I don't know if we're going to get confirmation on him before warm-up, but Pierre-Olivier Joseph, I think he played 21 minutes last night next to Chris Letang, and he's still under 3K, so don't mind him. Jake Sanderson might be my favorite defense play on the entire board here tonight. Yeah. So I'll mention Jake Sanderson and Jacob Slavin as well.
I do really like Jake Sanderson as well. He just runs the power play better than Shabbat does. I think he's just a better defensive player.
He might just be a better defenseman than Shabbat right now. Yeah. It's close.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have too much to add there. Let's talk about some goalies. We've got a couple really cheap guys. This is kind of like a day where you can spread out a little bit. There are some expensive guys that I do like, but again, I'm more of a cheap goalie guy myself, as Saros gets confirmed at 7,300. So who you liking?
Yeah, I mean, Jacob Markstrom, 7,100 at home to Vegas. I know. Trust me, Markstrom's burned me more than once this year.
Woosah, Captain. Remember your pressure points.
But 7,100 at home against a Vegas team that's really not playing that well right now, I don't mind it. Igor, obviously, against Carolina at his price.
Lucas Dostal is kind of interesting. I don't know if Winnipeg generates enough shot volume, and I'm going to be honest about that. Like, I have serious concerns Winnipeg's going to be able to put up enough shots here tonight where even if Dostal lets in like 3 or 4, that he's going to hit the save bonus. So I'm not sure about him. Jake Ottinger, for sure, at home against Pittsburgh. Reasonable price. Back-to-back on the road for the Penguins. 2 pretty tough matchups. Matt Murray. I know. I don't like playing the Leafs either.
I know, but the Florida Panthers is such a high-volume team.
That's exactly it. And with Toronto's defensive metrics falling off, I think there's a decent chance Murray sees a ton of volume here tonight.
Yeah, actually, I don't mind Matt Murray. It's just funny to say Matt Murray on the Leafs because he was their guy. Just save the season so they don't get out of the first, so they can get out of the first round. But kill me. I guess you could take a stab on Khudobin at 6,800. I'd rather go to min price Joey Decord over Khudobin.
Yeah,
the Capitals' shot volume is just pretty bad.
So. That's the problem with some of like Dostal too at 6,900. It's like, why not just go play Decord at 6,500? You know what I mean?
And Nashville, they put up some shots just because they can't play defense. So the puck is going both ways. So yeah, it would be Decord. But so I also like Saros in that game too, because Nashville's so bad defensively. Like, he's going to see volume. I think Jake Ottinger is probably the guy if I'm spending up, and that's 7,800. I guess like really going over 8K, there just isn't much. Like, I guess Darcy Kemper's fine, but like he's been bad and you need a shutout there. I don't want to play Brian Elliott.
I mean, Demko.
Yeah, it would probably be Demko.
Demko at home for 8K. It would be my expensive goalie tonight.
Or Swayman, but like again, Swayman needs the shutout. So yeah, it's more of a spend down.
I mean, does he? I mean, big night on Tuesday from Allmark, wasn't it? With Ottawa in town. Well, I know Montreal's not Ottawa, but
yeah, Ottawa also put up like 48 shots.
That's what I mean. And
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, don't mind Swayman actually. Who are you looking for your hat trick pick?
I'm going to a game that I like a lot more than you apparently. I'm going with Little Teapot himself, Tyler Toffoli.
Little Teapot. That's one of the weirder nicknames.
I mean, he does look like a teapot when he poses like that. What can you say?
That is true. It's just weird. I'm going to Wyatt Johnston, and like he literally couldn't be on any other team in the NHL with that name. Like Wyatt Johnston, perfect for a Dallas team.
Yeah,
I'm going Wyatt Johnston.
All right, I like it. Come on, Wyatt, bring us home.
We will be back next Tuesday, I believe. A couple weeks left in the season. 6 games or more, that's when we have shows, but make sure to check out those promos. Smash that like. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you in Discord. We're always around Discord. Talk some sauce. See you. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck, everyone. Enjoy John Wick 4.
High five.